Hi all, welcome to a new session of Milestone Project for Azure Data Factory, and let's get started where we left off in the last session. So I'm going into my portal and I'm going to open my Azure Data Factory Studio. Okay, so in the last session we created a copy activity in our pipeline. Today we are going to parameterize it. The purpose of parameterizing a pipeline is to make sure we can reuse the pipeline for the multiple files by just passing the parameters to the pipeline. So suppose if you have 5 to 6 files and if you want to use the same pipeline, you can just create the parameters that you want to update after every pipeline run, so that you can have multiple files getting copied using the same pipeline. If this is not the case, then you have to create, let's say 6 files are there, so you have to create 6 copy activities in one pipeline, or you have to create 6 different pipelines. And also similarly, the link services and the data sets will also be need to be created. So it saves you a lot of time and effort if you are parameterizing the link service, data set and pipelines. Okay, so last session we created a virtual machine and I deleted it. Okay, so today I'm going to again create a VM and I'm going to use it to fetch orders.csv from SFTP location into our data lake. Okay, so let me quickly create the VM. I'm going to give same name, project VM. I don't want any infrastructure redundancy. Everything is okay here. I want to use password and I'm going to use project admin as my username and I'm going to give a password. Okay, if I go to disk, I don't need to change anything and I can quickly go to review and create and create. So while this virtual machine is getting turned on, let me just go and create the parameters in our source and sync data sets and link services. Okay, so I'm going to start with my source data set. I will open the source data set. Here you have a link service. I will edit the link service. So I'm going to create 3 parameters, one for hostname, one for port and one for username. Hostname and username is going to be of string type. Port I am going to keep it of integer type. Okay, so in parameters I am going to create 3 new parameters. Okay, so here it will be hostname. Here I am going to go and create port. In port I am going to keep the type as int and I am going to say user name. Okay, now I am simply going to replace these values by the corresponding parameters. So you can see the format of the link service parameter is @link service dot hostname. Similarly, I am going to replace 22 with the port number. You could have hard coded also because we are not going to touch the port number, but still it is good practice to parameterize the port as well. And here I am going to keep username. Okay, after some time we are going to parameterize the Azure Key Vault and use the Key Vault to get the secret that is going to be your password. But for now, I'm just keeping it as it is. Okay, so I'm putting my password directly here. But best practice is to use Azure Key Vault to fetch the password and store password in the Key Vault. Okay, fine. Now, if you click on test connection, it will ask you the details like what is your host name, what is the port name and username. Okay, so let's go ahead in the VM and get the details and put it here. Okay, I'm going to put the host name, port name is going to be 22, and username is going to be project admin. We have given the password in the link service itself. So it is trying to connect. Connection is successful, and we can click on apply. Okay, now if you see, you are getting request for hostname, port name and username for link service in your data set. Okay, so in order to pass the parameters from data set to link service, we also have to create three parameters in your data set. Okay, so similar to how we created in our link service, I am going to create in the data set. Okay, I'm going to keep it int. And in connections, if you go, you have to use hostname. Now here it is at the rate dataset dot hostname. So based on this, you can identify whether it is a dataset parameter or link service parameter. Okay, so here I am keeping the parameters for dataset. Okay, so these three parameters will be used to initialize the parameters in link service. Now I am going to go into file path, and here also I am going to create parameters in order to replace these hard coded values. Okay, so I am going to go into parameters. I will create a file path, and I'm going to create a file name. Okay, so I'm going to change it to file path, and I'm going to change it to file name. Okay, everything is looking good. Now if you come to your pipeline, you will get 5 requests for parameters. Okay, now in order to populate these, you have to create parameters in your pipeline. Okay, so I'm going to create, I think there were 5, so I'm going to create host name, port, username, file path and file name. Port is going to be of int type. Okay, now if you go to source, you have to initialize this. So you have to initialize with pipeline parameters. So you, again, the format is pipeline dot parameters dot hostname. In the link service it was at the rate link service dot hostname. In dataset it was at the rate dataset dot hostname. Okay, after we are done with the parameterization, I will show you how the parameters flow from a pipeline to our link service. So link service is the bottommost level, but we have to initialize the pipeline in order to initialize the link service. Okay, so here we have username, you have file path, and you have file name. Okay, similarly If you go to sync, you have three parameterization requests. Okay, so you need container, you need folder path, and you need file. So if you like see, we have multiple ways to create parameters. Now we are going to create parameters from this window. So you click on this, you have ADLS container, then you have ADLS file path, and then you have ADLS file name. Okay, so first you will use ADLS container. For folder path, you are going to use ADLS file path, and for file name, you are going to use ADLS file name. Okay, let me validate everything. Everything is okay. Fine. So as you can see in our pipeline, we have now total 7 parameters. Let me see why it is not getting refreshed. Let me publish everything. Okay, fine. So if you uh, click on debug, it will be asking to provide the parameters. So you have total 8 parameters. Okay, fine. So we are done with the parameterization of our copy activity. We parameterize the link service. We parameterize the data set. We parameterize the pipeline. Okay, so it actually happens like this. You pass the parameters to pipeline. Okay, pipeline passes parameters to dataset, and dataset passes parameter to linked service. Okay, so you always pass all the parameters that will be used by the pipeline, by the dataset, and by the link service at the pipeline level, and after that the parameters will flow from pipeline to dataset and to link service. Okay, that is what we have done here. Let me do one thing. I think I can parameterize the link service also. So let me edit here, or let's keep it as it is. I think that will be better. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us to manage for now. So I'm going to keep it as it is. Okay, test connection, apply. Okay, so we are now ready to test our pipeline. In order to test, we have to first put the file into WinSCP. So I'm going to use the VM details to log into WinSCP. Okay, we are in our virtual machine, and I'm simply going to put order.csv into our location in the virtual machine. Okay, now let's try to execute our pipeline. So in this session, we were targeting to parameterize the copy data activity as much as possible. We have done it. Okay, now we are going to trigger the pipeline. It is asking all the parameters that it should use while executing this pipeline, so we will pass it. This is going to be our username, sorry, host name. Port is going to be 22. Project admin is going to be the username. For file path, this is the file path, slash home slash project admin. So this is basically the home folder of the user that we are using right now to work with our VM. File name will be order.csv. ADLS container will be sync. Variable output is going to be the directory in our ADLS. And for the sake of like understanding, I'm just going to change it to sample.csv. Okay. So in the variable output in sync container, we should see sample.csv file after the pipeline has executed. Let's go into monitoring. The pipeline is in progress. It's successful. I'm going to my resource group. I'm opening my storage account and let's see. I should see sample.csv in containers. Sample.csv in container. Okay. Variable output. And if you see, it was ingested today. So far we have covered this much: copy sales files from SFTP location into data lake, and we have parameterized the entire copy activity. Okay, now we are going to apply the rule that if the pipeline is running on Monday, it should pick the orders.csv from Saturday. Okay, it should not see the Sunday file because Sunday file doesn't arrive in the SFTP location. So this is going to be our next target, and for that I am going to use the actual orders.csv. I will put it in a location so that you guys can use it, but for now we were targeting to create the skeleton of our pipeline that is going to do the important job that we have, like ingesting the file, and after that rest everything is going to be the logic building around that copy activity. Okay, so hope you liked this session, and in the next session we will continue from here. But before signing off, let me just go back to my VM and let me stop. So remember, either you delete the VM or you stop. Okay, if you keep on running, it is going to charge you. So let's wait for the VM to turn off, and after that we will be closing this session. VM has stopped. So that was all for today's session. In today's session, we parameterized our copy data activity, source and sync dataset, and link services. Okay. In the next session, we are going to use our actual orders.csv to build the logic where we are going to check whether the file has arrived on Saturday or on any other day, and based on that we are going to ingest, and we will be using actual orders.csv. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me, and let's meet in the next session.